hears the Burdah, hears it in the same way. Every single person, and even the Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the poems we read, the ad'iya we read, every single person who hears in a different state. Okay? And you receive according to what you are able to receive according to your own state. And subhanAllah, because that is the case, it's important that we reflect every single time we get together upon what we heard and upon what meanings Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to absorb and to feel while we were listening to Imam Busairi. Yes or no? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses us to remind each other and uses us as people who hold these meanings. Imam Busairi Rahimahullah, if you look at his poem, there's so many things to learn from the poem. And every line of Burdah, you could spend hours and hours looking at it from a different aspect. But I want us today to think a little bit about the lines in the Burdah that were reflecting and talking about his own life. Why his own life? Because as Imam Zarruq Rahimahullah Ta'ala says in his explanation of Hizb al-Bahr by Imam Abu Hassan al-Shadili. Abu Hassan al-Shadili has a famous wirda, the famous hizb called Hizb al-Bahr. Okay? And people from all different turuq, all around the world. He says, when he's explaining, his whole book explaining this hizb, he says at the beginning, he says, the words of the awliya, the words of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are basically a summary of the hal of their state. So whatever comes out of their mouth, whatever they put into these books, these awrad, these things that we read, that is where the sirr, and that is where the secret that they hold, those meanings that they hold inside them, is expressed. You can't find it anywhere else. If you were just to hear about a wali, you won't be able to inherit the secrets that they have. You won't be able to go home understanding something different, go home with a different reality that you're living in. But if you read their awrad, that is where you can find these secrets. Only in their awrad and in their poems and books and the things that we recite on a daily basis that they give to us. That is where you can find these secrets. Okay? And every one of the awliya has a specific hal, a specific state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's different to the other. Okay? And what we find in the Burdah is that Imam Busairi Rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a state of inkisar, a state of tawadu, a state of humbleness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's unlike, and in front of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's unlike anyone else. And that came through the journey that he had in his life. So subhanAllah, Allah ta'ala, these awliya, since they're little babies, they go through things in life that teach them things, that allow them to, at the end of their life, to express what they've seen and give this, and pass this on as a message to others. So said that Imam Busairi Rahimahullah, in his story, he grew up in South Egypt, okay, in a Sa'id, a very young boy, in a very simple setting, learning Quran, learning Arabic, and he was always looking forward to what the world had to offer to him. He wanted to explore more, so he went to Cairo, and he studied Islamic sciences. As we know, he opened the Quttab, so he had a kind of little, tahfir business as a sayyidah, which means he had enough knowledge to do that. And back in the days, you have to study fiqh and language to do that. And subhanAllah, he didn't have much money back then. So he learned some ilm, but he didn't have much money, so what did he do? His job in Egypt was to write beautiful, sayings and beautiful things on people's graves. In Egypt, you go to graveyards, until now, subhanAllah, the old graveyards in the old Cairo, subhanAllah, you find that there's things written on the doors, on the graves, on the houses, or basically the gates of the graveyards. There's very beautiful calligraphy there. His job was to write. And that's that job doesn't give you much. You can't live off something like that. So he spent a lot of time seeking the rizq, seeking different opportunities in life. And later on, he got an opportunity to work in a different city in Egypt and to become some type of minor minister in that time, in that city. So he went from state to state. He was working in a graveyard, he was working teaching Quran, he was working as one of the seniors in the city that he was in. And all of this didn't fulfill his need for more. He didn't feel that was his purpose in life. It wasn't fulfilled. So at the end of his life, he sets on a journey, he embarks on a journey to Alexandria until he meets Abu Abbas al-Mursi, and it's the great wali of Alexandria, and he becomes a wali of his. And that's where it was buried, that's where it's buried, it's right next to him. Imam Busairi, he summarizes all of this in 1 or 2 lines of Burdah. When he says, أطعت غير الصبا في الحالتين وما حصلت إلا على الآثام والندم. He says, talking about his history in poetry and his history in khidmah. So what he used to serve, the people he used to serve in life that didn't bring him anything. Serving the wrong people. You serve people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they give you Allah. You serve the wrong people, they don't appreciate it. SubhanAllah. All your work goes in the bin. So he says, I spent so many years in poetry, in serving the wrong people, okay? And basically what I did is, أَطَعْتُ غَيْرَ الصِّلَةِ. When you're a little kid, when you're young, you don't understand, you don't understand the reason of things. You take silly, decisions in life that mess you up. Yeah? He says, my whole life, all I've been doing is taking these silly decisions that I made when I was a kid. That small kid inside me, inside my nafs, that used to be there, I was following it too much. Even when he wasn't a kid, Abdul-Rahman. But he's saying that those silly decisions that I took in life all came from a lack of tarbiyah in my life. So I wasted my life. I did things that had no meaning. I spent years doing things that had no meaning. Okay? وَمَا حَصَّلْتُ إِلَّا على what? على الآثام والندم. Yeah? Sins and also regret. I wasn't happy and also I regret it. Okay? فيا خسارة نفس في تجارتها لم تستردين من الدنيا ولم تسوي. So his advice is, there's no point. You've lost everything if your nafs, okay, in its transaction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doesn't sell your dunya with your deen. His reflection in life is that this physical life means nothing. You have to give it up. Buy your deen with the dunya. Use your dunya to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we know, mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He created everything for you, mankind, yes? If Allah created everything for you, does that mean you're supposed to spend your time for this life? The world is created for you, and you spend your time, your life, searching for the world. That means, subhanAllah, you're just searching whatever is already there for you. Allah Ta'ala created you to search for something else. These things here are all there to aid you and to support you in that journey. Yes? So sell this world and buy the hereafter, and you get, subhanAllah, and you win, subhanAllah. And Imam Busairi, subhanAllah, many times in the Burdah, he speaks in this similar tone, where he's really regretful of all of the decisions in life that he feels weren't the best decisions. And we could see that the whole entire Burdah, from the beginning to the end, the whole thing is about him crying and weeping and feeling sad about wasting time and not having enough time in the future to change things. So he uses Sayyidina Rasulullah and his wasila to get what he missed out. That's the summary of the Burdah. That's the reason he wrote the Burdah is for this. This is the message he's trying to get to you. The whole entire Burdah is about holding onto that wasila that's going to allow you to make up for all those years that you missed, all the things that you missed. That's our belief, Imam Busairi. That's why this Burdah isn't only a poem that we read, yes? Some of our shuyukh would advise us to even read it on a daily basis, read a chapter every day. Take it as a wird, subhanAllah. And in an Azhar, it's even a curriculum. So every student has to study every single line of the Burdah and before they graduate. Why? Because Burdah has became, subhanAllah, it's became this manhaj, it's became this, this reality that we live. And it was such an important turning point in the history of Muslims. That's why they held on to it. The Muslims, every single scholar in Islam, appreciated the Burdah so much. Imam Busairi, he was a person of knowledge, but we haven't heard that he was as knowledgeable as the scholars who explain the Burdah. You have great Imams, Hajar, Al-Haytami, Zarkashi, others, Imams in usul al-fiqh, in language, in fiqh, who explain the Burdah, but they appreciated it so much and they endorsed the Burdah because they all saw that what he has in it, ahwal that has the meanings that are under it, unbeatable. We can't find it in any other place, in any other poems. So, inshallah ta'ala, when we read the Burdah, let's have this in mind. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala sayyidina rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم اغفر لنا اجمعين. اللهم يا رب العالمين انا نسالك يا رب العالمين، نسالك باسمك التام الكبير الا تسلط علينا جبارا عنيدا ولا شيطانا حسودا ولا انسانا حسودا ولا ضعيفا من خلقك ولا شديدا. اللهم هب لنا من لدنك رحمه وهيئ لنا من امرنا رشدا. ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم اغفر لنا اجمعين وهب المسيئين منا للمحسنين، فان لم يكن بيننا محسن فهبنا جميعا لسعه رحمتك ومغفرتك يا رب العالمين. اللهم انا نسالك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والسلامه من كل اثم وطين والغنيمه من كل بر والفوز بالجنه والنجاه من النار والفوز بالجنه والنجاه من النار والفوز بالجنه والنجاه من النار برحمتك يا عزيز يا غفار يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم يا رب العالمين لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا ذنبا الا غفرته ولا هما الا فرجته ولا دينا الا قضيته ولا عسيرا الا يسرته ولا حاجه من حوائج الدنيا والاخره الا رضا ولنا فيها صلاح الا عنتنا على قضائها ويسرتها لنا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.